Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
Today we're here with the story of a saint.
Wait, a saint?
A saint.
Ah, sweet. Somebody who's not on the road to sainthood, but has already been raised to the altars.
That's right. And somebody who, at least for us Americans, is a saint of note, or worthy of note.
A saint we can identify with in many ways.
Yeah?
Yes. As last month we went and did some African Americans who are on the path to sainthood for Black History Month. As it's Women's History Month, I figured we'd do one of the few American female saints we haven't already talked about on our own episode. Because we did discuss kind of vaguely mentioning things about her life. But
Sure. Well, because it touches on so many of these others.
yes.
Yeah.
So we are discussing Saint Katarine Drexel, who there's not a lot of mystery about. I'm sorry.
She's contemporary and she's well known, so yeah.
She was born November 26, 1858 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her childhood home was 1503 Walnut Street.
We know the actual address.
Yes.
You can go there today.
I mean, we're both mentally in our mind going, all right, and it's about
Yeah,
4
they know
blocks from
Philadelphia
that.
very well.
I don't know if we know it very well, but I mean, we're
They
familiar
know
with the...
They know it reasonably well. They know it better than just having watched episodes of It's Always Sunny or Rocky.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. That would be fair.
Although it is fun, they have at the top of the steps a little outline of what his feet are, and
Man is tiny.
Oh,
they're
sure.
like sevens. I have bigger feet in men's sizes than him.
The only two men smaller than him are Tom Cruise and Peter Dinklage.
I'm pretty sure there's many others, but
Nope.
you know.
Only two.
All right.
Okay, you heard it here.
If that's the hill Mike's going to die on, we're going to let him defend it.
Back to St. Catherine.
Email your refutations of Mike's
ThePopishPlot
dissertation.
@gmail.com.
Link below.
She died March 3rd in 1955 at the age of 96.
That's when Bishop Sheen was on television.
Yep. She was a patron of philanthropy and of racial justice.
And she is the first... Yes. And she is the first native-born U.S. citizen saint, as she's the second born in what is now America, because St. Elizabeth Ann Seton was born in what became America, but back when it was still a colony.
Yeah.
Her parents were Francis Anthony Drexel, and he was a banker who was a very wealthy banker. And her mother was Hannah, and her original last name was Langstroth. Her mother unfortunately died when she was about 5 weeks old.
Oh.
And she had one older sister, and then she ended up later having a younger half-sister as their father remarried. And it seems that she was pretty well close and, loving of her stepmother, too.
Yeah. It's a good family.
Like I said, their family was well off, so the girls had private tutors, and they also went and toured both the U.S. and Europe because that was how they learned geography.
Why study maps when you can actually live them?
Yeah.
Yes. Along with, enjoying their wealth, they also gave back. About 3 times a week, the family would give out food, clothing, and rent assistance to widows and single women. Also, like other saints we've mentioned recently, they didn't just let them come to them. They went and used their
They found
connections
people
to
who
find
knew
that needed
people.
help.
Ooh.
And then, made sure that they got it, so that way it wasn't someone who was too embarrassed to ask for help.
Sorry, they knew people who found people.
Yeah.
Catherine had always had an interest in the lives of Native Americans, and this increased. She read a book that was like a popular book at the time called A Century of Dishonor, and this was a nonfiction book that dealt with the relationships between, Native Americans and the government and other people. So it acted much like Uncle Tom's Cabin did for the plight of the enslaved African people. And also in one of her learning geography, she went out west, so she actually got to see people that were, Native Americans trying to live their traditional life.
Okay, reading about it, good. But actually seeing it with your own eyes, even better.
Yep. Shortly after that trip, in 1885, her father passed away.
Oh.
And his will was that most of the money that he had was divided between his 3 daughters. A number of it went to various charities. And because he didn't want to have people that were marrying his daughters just for their money,
A legitimate concern.
Yeah. If they had children, the money then went on to the children. If they didn't have children, the money then went on to charity, so that way if they got married, their spouse couldn't have any money that they didn't make during their lifetime.
No Bluebeards.
Yeah. So, first thing the three sisters did all together is they donated some of the money that he gave them to the St. Francis Mission in South Dakota, which was part of the Rosebud Reservation.
Now, how much money are we talking about here?
Well, he had in that day's money $15.5 million.
Now, it should be noted that even if we just take that purely nominal figure, that's still a nice chunk of change, even today.
$15 million.
I'm not going to say no to 15 million.
Split three ways. It's still like, $5 million and change, per children.
But
child.
But adjusted for inflation, what is that money worth today?
Well, he had in his will about $1.5 million went to various charities. Well-known ones at the time were the Jesuits, the Congregation of the Christian Brothers, the Society of the Sacred Heart, I think local Lutheran hospital, and then various other lesser-known groups.
Okay.
So there was $14 million that was divided between the three sisters, and in modern values, that's about $400 million.
That's not bad. That'll do some damage.
Yeah. Especially if you were raised right, and you don't suddenly see that as a blank check for however you want to live your life.
I mean, each daughter got over the equivalent of $100 million. You'd have to actively try to waste that.
There have been people who have succeeded with more. So
burning money is burning money.
Anyway, even though she was very, very wealthy, she had interest in joining a spiritual order that was more like a contemplative one, but her spiritual director said that she should wait and pray on it. This is a conversation she was having right after her dad died.
That's the time to make big decisions.
We don't make decisions in times of desolation. No big changes.
So in January 1887, her sisters took a trip to Europe, and they had a private audience with the Pope, who was then Leo the 13th, because they wanted to ask the Pope for...
He was tiny. He might be smaller than Celeste alone.
They wanted to ask the Pope for missionaries to staff some of the Native American missions that they helped finance.
And here, this is a cautionary tale. Be very careful.
Yes, because even, in this time, they were so wealthy that they basically spent their time giving to charities and stuff. So he said, you know what? Catherine, you could be a missionary to them.
You're right. I should send missionaries. I send you.
Wait, what now?
You go to the people.
So after this, she entered the Sisters of Mercy Convent, which was in Pittsburgh, in May of 1889. And she then, devoted to actually giving her life and not her money to the service of Native and African Americans.
Well, again, money is good, but what the Lord really wants is our whole heart.
And unlike pretty much every other person that we've talked about being a saint who gave their life to something, this was news of the day. This was a front page story in the Philadelphia paper.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the wealthy heiress.
Yeah. Imagine if a wealthy heiress of today, a Hilton sister or one of Bill Gates's kids suddenly entered the convent.
Yeah.
This is a big deal.
Yeah.
In February 12th, 1891, she made her first vows and took the name Mother Catherine, and you can go and rant about spelling because she was born Catherine.
She was born Catherine with a C in your traditional English spelling. She changed it to Catherine with a K in a modified spelling that you wouldn't normally even see.
It's one of the questions I'm going to have if I get to heaven. What the heck?
So, after she changed her name to her name, she established the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament with 13 other women, and in one of those fun saints knowing each other, she then got advice from Saint Mother Cabrini on founding an order, largely about the red tape and stuff involved in Rome getting into this.
Well, because again, Mother Cabrini had to go through hell and back to get her order up and running.
I mean, she did have the advantage that she was super, super rich.
Yep.
However, she had the disadvantage that because she made it her goal to just help both Native Americans and African Americans, there were things like they had found like dynamite near where she was staying for her, this is the convent for the time, because she used like her family's summer home. So her problems were different than Mother Karini's, but still.
She drew some undesirable attention.
Some people are so full of hate, they won't even let someone else do good.
Exactly.
But when she got the order up and started, she did tons of stuff with both the order and the fact that as long as she was alive, she still had a certain amount of control of her money. As the will simply stated that at her death, and although, being a religious sister, there are certain vows you make, there is a certain amount of your money goes a certain amount to the order, and,
well, and
different ones have different regulations on that.
Yeah, this is one of the fascinating things about St. Catherine. We have examples of people like, St. Anthony the Great, who, when they heard the gospel, they gave away right then and there everything that they had. Whereas St. Catherine clearly discerned that God's will was not to give it away in one sudden moment, but to spend the next decades of her life giving it away to build things for others.
I do like St. Francis' overzealous giving away of stuff that technically wasn't his.
Especially his clothes, yeah. Yep.
But anyway.
Oh, that guy.
When she was alive, she did things like she opened a boarding school in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She bought 160 acres in the Arizona, New Mexico area and asked some Franciscan friars to staff a mission on the land for Navajos. She also helped finance the friars working with the Pueblo Indians. She paid to get 500 copies printed of a book called A Navajo English Catechism of Christian Doctrine for the use of Navajo children.
Nice.
50 schools for African Americans, 12 schools for Native Americans, and Xavier University in Louisiana, which is the one historically black Catholic college.
And still up and running today.
Yes. And her and her order also did religious education, social services, visiting the sick, the homebound, and the imprisoned. And she was also known for speaking out against injustice and racial discrimination.
She was herself from a very privileged background, but she didn't let that keep her from having a heart for those who were truly suffering.
Yes, yes, and
she had a platform with her social standing. Sorry.
Yes, I wanted to make sure to note that, given all the recent findings in Canada and the U.S. with various schools, that even if she might not have done everything 100% the best way, she honestly was trying to do things helpful and loving and taking care of people.
In the last 18 years of her life, she spent her time in the life of adoration and contemplation that she, when she was younger, had wanted to do.
Sadly, this was due to illness. However, she was quite old when she passed, so
she was already
96.
she was already well into her 70s by the time
she had to slow down.
Yep.
And her order still works with Native Americans and African Americans in 21 states, as well as in Haiti.
And as part of her canonization, the Vatican cited a fourfold legacy that she left to her sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. Her love for the Eucharist, her spirit of prayer, and her Eucharistic perspective on the unity of all peoples.
Those are all connected.
Oh, I see. That's one fold of the four folds. So, number two, her undaunted spirit of courageous initiative in addressing social iniquities among minorities, 100 years before such concern aroused public interest in the United States. Number three was her belief in the importance of quality education for all and her efforts to achieve it. And lastly, number four was her total giving of self, of her inheritance, and of all material goods in selfless service of the victims of injustice.
Yes, and that is from the actual Vatican, like when they beatified her little bio they wrote up.
Yeah.
She was beatified November 20th, 1988. Yeah, that's 88. And sorry, the
printer needs ink.
The printer needs ink, so that could have been a 6 or it could have been an 8. And was canonized on October 1st, 2000 by Pope John Paul II.
St. Catherine Drexel,
pray for us. So we hope you have enjoyed this biography of St. Catherine Drexel.
She was great.
She was fantastic. She is something for us all to aspire. She lived a life that we should all aspire to, regardless of our financial background.
Amen.
It provides a cautionary tale of if you come up with an idea, it's now your job.
Yeah.
Trust me, the Knights of Columbus taught me that.
Yeah. So, if maybe you have another story of a saint that you would like us to share, that you would like to have shared with the rest of the world, and you'd like us to do it, so go down below to the comment section and tell us who that saint is. Or maybe they're not a saint. Maybe they are someone who is on the pathway to being there. We will take servant of gods, venerables, blesseds.
If you know the exact street address that they grew up on, bonus points.
Heck, if you know somebody who is just a really good all-around person and maybe should be considered for there being a cause for canonization, go down and let us know who that individual is. We will
not do an episode on them.
Probably not. We're probably gonna stick with the ones that we can actually do some verification on. But
or how we inadvertently found ourselves being the promoters of a cause.
Inadvertently, I'm trying to advertently be the promoter of a cause.
Give this episode a like, subscribe to our channel to be notified the next time we take on more than we can chew.
Which will be tomorrow.
Ring the church bell to be notified when the next brilliant plot is uploaded. And until then,
remember to live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.
I wanted to know, one of her things was that she treated them all as people.
Totally.
This wasn't a project.
Yeah.
This was, these are fellow humans that are hurting, and I'm going to help them because I'm stinking filthy rich.
Yeah,